OpenAI just launched ChatGPT Work and everyone's talking about it. But hardly anyone shows you how to configure this whole thing so that a real project or workflow runs on it from end to end. Now, I built my own AI command center in Claude Code. AI employees, automations, skills, dashboards, the whole thing. So when ChatGPT Work was launched, I didn't just see a new tool. I saw the same architecture I already live in, just in different packaging. And so this video is me setting it up from scratch for a project that a lot of my clients care about, which is creating an online course. Now I've built courses using Claude Code and Codex. This time, I'm going to show you how I would use ChatGPT Work as a course production assistant that knows my content, my student avatar, and my deadline. By the way, if you're new here, my name is Hazel June. I've worked with experts and thought leaders since 2018. I've actually redesigned online programs that generated over 7 figures a year. I've coached hundreds of business owners and trained thousands of people on how to leverage AI. And in this channel, I usually talk about using AI to run and grow a solo business. Let's get into it. All right, now everything starts with a project. Think of it as the production office or your project management board where everything about the course lives. Now, you might be wondering, why do we need it? Well, most people keep their course details in their head. The idea, the audience, the launch date, the curriculum, all of those things. And then they feed AI snippets or fragments of it using one prompt at a time. Now, while that could work, it does take a lot of time and tokens to get it done. Plus, every session, unless you give it context, it's meeting you for the first time. So you end up giving details over and over and over again. Okay, before anything else, make sure you toggle to work so that you get to work with ChatGPT Work. The first thing is you want to create a project. So just click this plus sign to create a new project, and maybe we call it course production. And then just click create project. Once created, what we're going to do is load it with everything a new team member would need on day one. Let's start with the instructions. Just click advanced. Under custom instructions, just paste whatever your project instructions are for this particular project. Once the instructions are set up, click add so that you can start adding your specific context files. What the course is, the transformation it delivers, who it's for, like your student avatar in detail, the launch timeline, all of the other assets like your brand voice guide, your course outline if you already have one, and all of the other stuff that anyone from your team or you needs in order to understand what the course is about and what the project is really about. Once all of these are uploaded, then we can hit save. So that's the whole first move. You're not asking for an output. You're not asking it for anything yet. You're essentially onboarding it, kind of like a new hire. But because you have it set up, from this point onwards, every single thing that it produces starts from a full context about your course instead of zero knowledge on what you're trying to build. Now, before you let it write anything, you need to deal with where the content comes from. Because if you skip this step, ChatGPT is going to create or write a generic course. And we definitely don't want a generic course because people can just easily use AI to learn that information. What we want is to use our own frameworks, our own processes, our own workflows, skills, and experience to shape the content of the course. And let's be real, for most experts like a coach, a speaker, an author, you guys are not starting from zero. Your course already exists. It's just that it's scattered across different drives or your Google Drive, or for some of us, it exists in our head. I'm talking workshop recordings and their transcripts, client calls, conversations with your prospects, the training that you deliver twice and never packaged, the framework that you've created in 2023 and you forgot about, years of actual teaching just sitting in your folders. So, move to is connecting Google Drive and putting it to work. As you notice, we're already working within our course production project. So that's the first thing you want to make sure you're doing. Everything that we do moving forward, we do it within the course production project. Now, the next thing is you want to make sure that your Google Drive is connected. So how do you do that? Go to plugins and then search for Drive or Google Drive. And from here, if it's not connected, it's going to show install. But in my case, because I've already connected it, it doesn't show install. Once your Google Drive is connected and you've specified the course production project that we're working on, the next thing we want to do is ask Chat to scan our content folders and build a source map for the course. For example, which files contain teaching material, what each one covers, where the gaps are if there's any, or if there's any topic that's missing that we need to create fresh. Chat then is going to get to work and start looking at the files in our Google Drive. Okay, after working for a few minutes, you would know exactly how much of your course is already written and exactly what's missing, which means that from here on, every lesson gets built from your material in your words, not the internet's average of your topic. Now, real quick, if you're watching this and you realize that you don't want to do all the setup work and you'd rather have an AI command center that's already built and it's ready to handle the tasks that you don't want to do, book a call and let's talk. Just click the link in the description below and pick a time that works best for you. Let's go back into the video. Okay, now let's get to the actual course production because this is where most people burn out. Writing lesson after lesson, each one from scratch, and each one slightly different in structure and quality. The fix is a skill. It's a saved, named, repeatable workflow that you configure once. Think of it like an SOP or a standard operating procedure that you'd hand an employee. And you do that because you want to make sure that the output is predictable and consistent every single time. Now, the way that I design lessons have obviously evolved over the years because I always learn something new from my clients. And now I follow my 4P method, which means that in each lesson, we prepare the learner, we present the concept, we let them practice, and then we have them perform it in a real world or a simulated world. That way, every lesson has the same structure. Now, that's an SOP. That's why it becomes a skill. One that knows the framework, and because we're using it within the course production project, it knows our student avatar. And it also pulls the teaching material from the drive sources that we've identified from the previous step. If you're wondering how to create a skill, just make sure you go to work and then click plugins. From here, toggle the skills tab, and then you're going to see this plus icon where you can create a skill using 3 different options, whether you create it with chat, create it with the editor, or upload it from your computer. Once you've built the skill, now you can start creating the lessons for your course. With this process, you really don't need to be good at prompting. Like, look at how simple my prompt here is, right? This skill and then the context from the project handles 80% of the work, like it did here. So every time you run it, it creates a structured lesson draft based on your own content. This work used to be an afternoon per lesson for me. Now your afternoon is spent reviewing a week's worth, and your actual expertise goes where it matters, which is the 20% only you can add. Now, if you don't have a lesson structure yet, don't stall here. You can build 2 or 3 lessons live with ChatGPT, and then once you find the flow that works for you, ask it to turn what you just did into a skill, because ChatGPT actually has a skill that creates a skill, so you're covered. The process will then get documented and delegated in the same way. Look at how detailed this is. It's not your typical generic course that most people get when they're prompting chat. If you've created an online course in the past, you know this. When you're creating a course, you're not just creating lessons, you're also creating slide decks, workbooks, PDF resources, all the things. And this is the part where a lot of solo course creators lose a lot of time because most of us aren't designers by nature. Now, if you're like me, you're probably spending a lot of time designing a slide deck or rebuilding the same layout for workbooks. Or worse, shipping materials where every module looks different. And so it looks like every single workbook or slide deck comes from a different online course. The next move is to use the template creator to create templates for your decks and workbooks. The fonts, the structure, the colors, the layout, all of them locked in. Now, the skill from step 3 and the templates will work as a pair. The lesson builder produces the content, and then the template gives it the container, which means every lesson comes out the same way. When you have a system like this, the standard across all course materials is locked in instead of depending on your design energy or prowess that day. Now, let's be honest. Creating an online course is not always a linear process. Sometimes, when client work starts to flood back in, or there's an upcoming talk that you have to prepare for, or there's a new client that you have to onboard, those other priorities would start eating your time or your day, which means creating the course quietly slides to when things come down. In short, nothing moves unless you move. So the week you stop pushing, it also stops moving. That's what scheduled task fix. OpenAI recently rebuilt this. There's a dedicated scheduled page, and tasks can run on schedule or monitor for changes and trigger on their own. For the course build, you need one of two setups. You can have a morning brief where every day before your work block, it's gonna tell you what shipped yesterday, what's due today, and what's blocked and waiting on you. Or you can also create a weekly review like this. And what it does is that every Monday, it's going to tell you the state of the whole build against the launch timeline, what lessons are queued, and then gives you a brief for what happened the entire week. And here's the pro tip. You can run the lesson builder skill on schedule so that even when you're doing client work, your assistant is handling the task for you. Remember, you set this up once and then it runs. It's like the project taps you on the shoulder instead of waiting for you to remember it exists. That's the shift from you managing the course build to the course build reporting to you. Okay, last move, and it's the one that ties everything together. When you ask AI how the project is going, the default answer is going to be a wall of text, right? A summary that you have to read and mentally think about, okay, so what do I do next? Now that could be a bottleneck, right? The great news is ChatGPT Work can do better because Work produce finished things, including what they call sites, which are actual live pages that it builds and updates. Okay, the final move is to use sites to build your production board, which means every module, every lesson, its stage, whatever the status is, it's going to be shown on the dashboard. All of the pending items are also flagged so that things waiting on you are impossible to miss. Now, I know this works because I run my whole business on something like this. One glance at my dashboard and I know exactly what my broken cell is. I didn't figure that out by reading a report. The red cell told me. And so once you've made a decision in 20 seconds that used to take an hour of reading before, you don't go back. And you know this, course build deserves the same. Just open the dashboard, see the red, fix the thing, and close the board. It's like a status meeting with your production assistant, and it only takes half a minute. So that's the full setup. The project is like your production office where everything about your course lives. Connecting your drive hands your assistant the keys to your filing cabinet where you store all of your content and expertise and all of those teaching content that you already have. Then the skill is your SOP, your standard operating procedure, so that every lesson follows the same structure and format. And then, of course, we have templates so that all of your workbooks and slide decks have the same branding. Scheduled tasks are your heartbeat, so that the build moves even when your attention doesn't. And then finally, sites is your project dashboard. Just one glance and you know exactly where you're at in the whole production project. Now, this whole setup can take an afternoon, but when you do, I promise you, it's gonna save you days, if not weeks of time. That way you can focus on actually managing the course build. That's basically the difference between using ChatGPT like a standalone tool versus setting it up so that it runs a full workflow from end to end. Now, if you want help building an AI system like this, one that's actually trained on how you work, your voice, your expertise, your audience, the whole 9 yards, go ahead and book a call with me. Let's talk. The link is in the description. We're going to look at your business and then map out what an AI system or AI command center could look like for you. And while you're here, like this video and hit subscribe. I release a new video every week, and it's usually about building AI systems like this or running a business without hiring a team. If that is your jam, you would want to stick around. See you in the next video. Ciao.